Hi everyone, happy hump day. Welcome to today's Sitrion Talks. We are here today with some of the who I consider gurus from Sitrion, and we're going to talk about preparing for the future of mobility and social. I know that this is a hot topic for many of our customers and for people that we're talking to, and we really wanted to bring some perspective from different parts of the Sitrion business and help you kind of frame what's happening in the marketplace, some of the trends that are shaping the direction of workplace technology, and we'll also have a discussion about sort of building a mobile strategy, how you might mobilize your existing social strategy, and why all this is so important to happy, healthy future, both at home and at work. I'm joined today by Brian Kellner, our Chief Technology Officer, Jenny Bloomberg, our Mobile Solutions Manager, and Marcus Dopp, all the way from Germany. He is our VP of Mobile Solutions. I will ask them all to introduce themselves in a moment and tell you a bit about who they are and what their role is here at Sitrion, sort of why they're qualified to talk on the subject. I'll just remind anyone who is watching live on YouTube that the Q&A panel is active, so you can ask questions of the panelists. I will moderate that throughout the call. I'd be really happy to pass on any questions that you have for them. And yeah, please keep the questions coming. There's about a 30-second delay between us here talking and what you're seeing on the screen. So yeah, if you have a question, feel free to pop it in, and we will do our best to answer it. Over to you guys. Shall we do ladies first? I'll get you to introduce yourself, Jenny.
Thank you, Luke. Appreciate it. So like Luke said, I am the Mobile Solutions Manager at Sitrion. So basically what that means is I help customers with mobile app distribution and adoption, and I work a lot with MDM vendors, which you may have heard that term before, mobile device management. I work closely with our developer team and our support team, and I'm based in beautiful Denver, Colorado at Sitrion HQ.
Cool, thanks, Jenny. Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Brian Kellner. I'm CTO here at Sitrion. So I've been here a bit over 9 years. It's been a great ride working with our customers in all sorts of enterprise technology. I'm responsible for anything to do with the technical side of our operations, so the support, the IT, the product development, QA, product management, those sorts of things. So if it's something you like about our products, then you can thank me and I'll pass it on to the right people. If it's something you don't like, then you can blame me and I'm happy to go get it better. So thanks for everybody who's be able to join in and enjoy this. We've got a great show for you.
Lastly, we head over to Germany where it is nighttime. Thank you, Marcus.
Thanks, Luke. Cool. My name is Marcus Dopp. I'm VP of Mobile at Sitrion. My backgrounds are actually in the enterprise integration space, so I've done a lot of work in the Microsoft and SAP space over the last 10 years, and I'm really lucky to be responsible on the GTM side for launching the Sitrion One platform. So Brian is actually my counterpart on the R&D side, and my main focus is actually talking to our customers, gathering and collecting all the requirements, and then building the next gen mobile platform for you guys out there.
Awesome. Okay, so you can see we've got a panel here which is very well qualified to talk about today's topic. And I thought, you know, we've talked in the invitation for this and in the intro we've talked a little bit about trends. So I thought we'd kick off with that as a subject. You know, for the last many years now, Sitrion and formerly Newsgator have really been leading the charge for enterprises who are wanting to make work better for their employees. We've been really, very successful in the social collaboration tool space, extending the power of SharePoint to really help organizations leverage their investment in the Microsoft technology. We're seeing this whole a lot of trends impacting this space at the moment. So I thought let's look at the lay of the land. What are we seeing in the industry that's really swinging things for us? Let's start off with you, Brian.
Thanks, Luke. I think the most interesting things that happen for us when we're working with our customers are where there's a combination of a business kind of activity or trend and a technology kind of trend. And so what I see happening right now is that on the business side, our companies that we are working with are ever trying to increase productivity and at the same time improve satisfaction of their employees. And so we've seen them do a lot of things on the social side to really keep people engaged, to keep them informed, help them get answers more rapidly, and really change the way that they're able to work there. And on the business side, from the mobile point of view, it's about taking advantage of all those mobile moments. It's where people are able to get quick work done in small segments of time, because everybody's day now is a complete interleave of one part personal, one part business, and those days stretch from longer in the morning and later in the night than most people would want, including Marcus, who's calling in very late in the evening in his time zone. So we all have to balance that out, and mobile devices are part of that. So that's the business realities. I see these business realities. The technical realities that I think are interesting are that there's this constant evolution of both the underlying business platforms like SharePoint, and then these new technologies that companies are trying to take advantage of, like cloud and mobile. And so the trends I see that are most powerful are where those come together, where the new technologies are able to somehow make those business realities better, and that's what we'll probably dive into deeper here. So I'll stop there and let the others answer.
Jump in, guys, if one of you like to comment. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have to raise my hand. So kind of piggybacking on what Brian is saying is, I mean, obviously the biggest topic right now is mobile. And the thing that's happening is mobile has put technology in everybody's hands. And so by an extension, it's become very personal to a lot of people. And so you're kind of seeing all the intertwinings of personal and work-life balance. And enterprises are getting wise to this fact. In fact, the biggest trend I would say going on right now is BYOD. In case you don't know, it's bring your own device. So what's happening, instead of having the enterprise have ownership of every technology that people use for their work, people are using their own personal mobile device now. And so that in return is causing some challenges for people, which is some of the things that we aim to solve for.
Absolutely, and what we're also seeing is that people, they have like multiple devices, right? So you got your smartphone at work, you got your iPad at home in your family living room, but seriously, I mean, you just want to get or be close to the heartbeat of your employer and your company, right? So you want to know what's going on. So especially in industries like manufacturing, where you have a lot of blue-collar workers, people who are kind of disconnected from the classical and traditional internet world, we are really giving them the ability to be again part of their corporate communications and be part of the heartbeat of the organization by just extending the reach of everything in your internet to mobile devices. And that's definitely a huge trend, like BYOD and the ability to reach everyone in your workforce leveraging mobile technologies.
I think, across all three of you, then we had like a whole lot of acronyms. This new world of like mobile at work is creating like all these new buzzwords and things that are being bandied around, like MDM, BYOD. I'm sure, Jenny, you could list off like a long list of the different terminology that's being applied to this.
OMG.
OMG, exactly. I think it can be really like intimidating for some people, whether you're a line of business manager in HR and experiencing this kind of like coming to your workforce, or whether you're like IT director who's like really driving the driving force behind it. This can be like a space that's like a little bit confusing. So I guess like let's go right back to basics. What's your advice to people who are really just starting out with mobile? If you haven't kind of like got MDM or you're not allowing BYOD, what's your advice at the beginning of the road?
So the first thing that I would actually do is listen to your employees. Just really ask them what jobs they actually want to get accomplished, what data they want to have access to, and what you can do as a business or as IT to get their job or make their life more easier and get them the data and information and processes that they really are desperately waiting for. So that's number one, because what we are seeing is actually that IT doesn't really know what to mobilize. They know that it's a big trend and that people are asking for it, but they are really unsure what use cases the people out there actually want to have on their mobiles. And what I'm also hearing a lot is that a lot of IT teams are currently architecting the next generation digital workplace, and they are completely forgetting that some percentage of the workforce actually very often has no direct access to offices and laptops and PCs, right? So really, like, listening to your employees, talking to the business is key, and then it's like mapping it to IT components and talking to vendors such as Sitrion. But step number one, what I would suggest is really like talking to the folks out there.
Marcus makes a great point, because with mobile, because it's so personal, it shouldn't be something that's just driven by IT. Because then what you end up with is, sure, you have secure solutions, but a lot of times it's at the expense of user experience. And so the fundamentals of your mobile policy should be defined by people all across the organization. It should be up to the people all across all departments. They should be stakeholders in what drives mobile for your organization.
I'll just toss in a couple points. I've been in the world of technology for a long time. I used to work for a CIO, so I've been on the IT side of it. And IT is full of good people trying to do the right things, right? They really are.
We still love IT.
Yeah, right. So I probably think of myself as sort of halfway in between IT and business. I think if you're on the business side, right, there are a couple of things. First is, like Marcus says, ask your employees, because what you want to do is get to the value. What are the high value business things that you can get out of this, right? And odds are, with a little bit of exploration, you can see things like, gosh, if I could do all of my approvals in one spot, or if I could have a better way to get the information out to people, or some quick ways to do some things that are a pain to do today, like a vacation request. And if I had some way to get those things done, there's real business value. I can see the time savings. I can see how people are able to get their work done more effectively. So focus on the business value if you're on the business side. And my second bit of advice is keep it as simple as possible, right? When you get into the world of mobile, it's not just that there are a lot of acronyms. There's going to be a lot of things that will be part of the solution. And companies like ours, with Sitrion One, we solve the whole problem end to end. But in your world, you may still have bits and pieces. You have to tie things together. And so what happens in some cases that I see is customers start with a huge vision, right? They think of like their favorite consumer app with 100 bells and whistles, and they sort of distract themselves from, well, wait, where's the value, right? Like, what could I really be successful with quickly in my company? And I think if you can find ways to focus on the quick value and the quick wins, you have a much better chance of getting mobile rolled out successfully, because you have the business value to drive through the things that you're going to find as obstacles or challenges along the way, and you're going to be able to execute really well on getting to the value in smaller steps.
I think that's a good segue to kind of where I wanted to go with the next question, and that's sort of like looking around mobile and social strategy. If we, at the basis of all execution in our company lies a well-planned and hopefully well-thought-about strategy. If we're looking at mobile strategy, sort of what are the fundamental building blocks that people should consider that are going to make up that strategy when they're kind of setting forth on this mobile journey?
Well, so first of all, you should decide if you are going to support a BYOD, a bring your own device environment, because with that entails a lot of complexities. But to what Brian was saying, though, it doesn't have to be so complicated. Fundamentally, you do need to acknowledge how you're going to secure both company data, but then also keep employee data private and separate. But then also comes the question about how you're going to manage app development, right? There's a plethora of options out there, like Sitrion One. So what approach should you take in your organization based on talking to your employees and what workflows and approvals and whatnot that you need to manage? What app development approach should you be taking? Because there are plenty of options out there.
I'll just toss in a couple things to sort of add on to it. You know, we've had so much fun working with customers on social implementations that, you know, one of the fun things to do is to look back on sort of how that process has gone and where we see the most success. And I think what you see as sort of the cases where people get themselves into a bit of trouble is where they say, hey, we're going to do social just to do social, right? Being social is good. I'm going to do social, right? And we've always tried to say, okay, hold on a second. What problems are you trying to solve? Are you trying to, you know, bridge across geographic or departmental gaps? Are you trying to achieve greater agility in your company? Are you trying to make, you know, expertise and knowledge more discoverable? What kinds of things are you trying to do? And so similarly, when you're forming your mobile strategy, right, you first have to start with what is it that you're trying to get out of this, right? Because in some cases it may be all about expanding your reach, as like the examples Marcus is saying, to people who have been sort of actually cut off from the rest of your IT infrastructure, and you're engaging your essentially non-desktop workers? Or is it about there are some specific processes that could go much better, where you could get issue reporting to happen more efficiently if somebody on a manufacturing line could snap a picture of something and have it instantly go to somebody who could take a look at it, right? Or, you know, are you trying to do something where you're trying to get people more engaged by getting the right messaging out? So look at your business strategy, look at what you're really trying to do, and then map it back to use cases you're going to do with mobile. And again, I vote for starting with the simple ones. And then lastly, for a successful strategy in mobile, you have to plan for agility, because the market and the user expectations are such that mobile is going to be ever-changing, where historically you might have, you know, developed an application, it took you a year or two to develop it, you put it out there, and it stayed the same for 3 or 4 years, and that was sort of the cycle. With mobile, you're going to need a strategy that accounts for the idea that people are going to start with something, and immediately they're going to have another request, and another one, and another one, and then there's going to be a new release of a new phone and a new operating system. And so correspondingly, whatever strategy you come up with, you have to account for the fact that it's going to have to change rapidly.
That's a very good point, Brian. So, I mean, currently we have a lot of systems on-prem, but we already know that we will be probably moving ERPs or CRMs or even our collaboration tools such as Exchange to a cloud world. So within the next couple of years, we're going to have like a hybrid world where cloud or where on-prem based systems will transition into a cloud environment. So agility is really key, because if you want to have successful mobile rollouts, you need to start taking use cases to your employees now, rather than waiting for another 1 or 2 years. And over time, your systems and your landscape will change. So you need to find a solution that actually allows you to rapidly switch systems in the background, to constantly optimize use cases, and to also allow for even temporary use cases. Just think about small things like an employee survey. So let's say you want to open up an employee survey to all workers within a 2 weeks time frame. You need to have the ability to implement such a mobile survey, cost efficient and fast, but you also need to be very agile, because you need to deploy and make it available to hundreds or thousands of people within 2 weeks. So this is really a very important point that Brian just mentioned.
Guys, I think you know, especially for our existing customers who are listening, you know, we've learned a lot about social collaboration. They probably live in a social collaboration team, which may not necessarily be responsible for mobile. And I think a lot of companies probably are finding this. Mobility is kind of emerging out of one space, and social collaboration its own strategic kind of direction. You know, we've talked about, you know, the need for these two or multiple systems to merge into a single mobile environment. Well, how does a company kind of, you know, find that special place? How do they find the merger, I guess, of the two different strategies, mobile and social? Like, how do the two teams unite?
Well, I'll give it a shot first. I think, so first of all, right, in a big company, the reality is that there's always going to be lots of teams involved because, in big companies things get divided up, and so, the social team that I usually work with inside of a big company, right, they're trying to achieve one of those goals we said early on, right? Are they trying to break down geographical boundaries? Are they trying to, find expertise faster? Are they trying to get questions responded to and so forth? And so it's always in their interest to make that capability as available as possible to everyone, right? Because basically their use case about breaking down geographic boundaries between groups or whatever, if that only applies to people who are sitting in front of a web browser, for a substantial part of their day, then it's a tough time to get the value out to everyone. So almost always the social team has a need to get mobility involved, right? And we have a existing social client for the Sitrion social platform, and it tries to do everything that Sitrion social can do pretty much in a mobile experience. What we find is that there are a lot of users who want to leverage a social platform, but they don't want a client that is as powerful and as complex, frankly, as the Sitrion social client. So behind the scenes, we've done some very nice work with the Sitrion One platform, so you can do things like submit a question and have it go to some place that the user doesn't even need to know. So if you want to enable your salespeople to ask sales questions, you can have a sales and selling community or a sales help community sitting in the background in Sitrion Social, and in the user experience, there's just a button they tap that says sales questions. They type in their question. They don't know what's happening in the social platform behind the scenes. They don't need to navigate to any place. They just ask their question. And so this is a really tactical example of this merger, but the social team has always got an inherent desire to make it available across mobile platforms, and what one is particularly good at is dealing with cases that are more focused, more simple than sort of the general purpose mobile client that we ship. It also opens up all these other stories like working with SharePoint or SAP or Salesforce in a single client, and that makes it easier to get users to use it because they know there's tons of value in this one client. And I think but finding the stories where you have a capability on the back end that you want to expose to more people is sort of the natural merger of social and mobile.
And let me quickly add a thing. So the two most important assets in your organization are probably data and processes, and it's human knowledge, right? And the first is actually in your systems, like in your ERP system, your CRM system, in your email system, and the second one is actually in your social platform, in your intranet, and it's in the heads of your employees. So what you can actually do is you can blend those two worlds. Let me give you one example. So think about a sales rep having a customer meeting. So the appointment is actually in Microsoft Exchange. So wouldn't it be cool if you would actually get notified as a sales rep one day before your customer meeting that there is a customer meeting, and instantly you get a push notification that already shows you all the open orders from CRM, all the latest conversations from your social platform around this customer, and the latest revenues from the last year from your ERP system. So like blending the knowledge of your organization with the processes and data in one single experience and pushing it out to a user based on the context, that's really, really powerful. And that's what we want to enable you with mobile technologies.
I think it's interesting that Brian mentioned the Sitrion social client, in that we had to go through a process of learning how best to serve our customers through mobile. And the answer is not to throw in every feature of what is desktop enterprise software. That's not the future of enterprise mobility. It's not about having these monolithic enterprise apps that are on a screen that is this big. And so what Marcus is saying is that through Sitrion One, and what we've learned as we've worked with people, is that instead of focusing on having a lot of features, instead what you do is you add context. And so based on a person's role in the company, or based on their location, or based on the information that they need right at that moment, only then do you serve up a push notification and give them something to some task to perform in the app. This simplifies things, makes it a lot better to work with, and keeps people far more productive if they don't have to tap through and sort of wade through a bunch of features just to do a simple approval.
We've talked really kind of like very closely to Sitrion 1, but we haven't actually talked about what it's about. So give me the elevator pitch. What is Sitrion 1 all about? I don't care if you each want to tell it in your own words, maybe a different take on it.
Okay, I'll go first. So I represent the technical side of the organization, so I'll say it from the technical side. If you're building enterprise mobility, traditionally that involved a lot of hard work for a lot of different people and a lot of skills that you probably didn't have readily at hand. It would have involved native mobile development, which are hard skills to hire and train up. It would have involved back-end connectivity and understanding how to get data out of systems and back into systems. It would have involved security and access and authentication and making that work safely. And so the magical thing from a technical point of view from Sitrion 1 is that this is a platform that lets you do that entire story, not needing any native mobile development, not needing back-end expertise, and building mobile solutions literally in minutes that securely connect all the way back in. So for me, the way I think about Sitrion 1 is from the technical side, and the elevator pitch is it's extraordinarily fast and productive enterprise mobile capability that you can do with the skill sets you have today.
Cool. Let me continue. So for me, Sitrion 1 is actually an all-in-one box enterprise mobile offering. So if you know already what mobile use cases you want to deploy, and if you have backend systems such as Oracle, SAP, SharePoint, Salesforce, or other heavy systems that you want to leverage, then Sitrion 1 is really like a very, very good fit for any kind of B2E type of applications, because it really enables you to capitalize on your Microsoft.NET investments. So any Microsoft developer can rapidly, and we are talking about hours and single-digit days here, can rapidly build composite mobile apps that you can then real-time deploy to hundreds or thousands of users. And it's really affordable. So we are offering you Sitrion 1 as a SaaS type of offering. So it's a subscription. It's a per user per month price tag that is really really affordable, because we want you to get started very, very quick without with a minimal IT splash.
So I guess these are pretty long elevator rides. I don't have anything different than what Marcus and Brian said, so I'm going to take a different approach and just pitch Sitrion, the company in general, because I don't think we're just talking about software here. There's more to it. The culture at Sitrion is that we're all driven to help people succeed on mobile initiatives, no matter what that looks like. And our product, One, because of all the capabilities, really represents that. So whether that means also if we're consulting with your architecture team, or we help you with mobile rollout and adoption of mobile, these are all things that we like to champion for our customers, because we live and breathe mobile at Sitrion. So that's super cheesy, sorry.
Oh, that was cool.
Everybody hug.
Cyber hug. I have got a couple of questions we're going to ask just before we wrap up that have come through. So one was around the security of Sitrion 1. I think, Marcus, when you were talking about merging different systems into a single app, can you tell us about what the security approach is and how that works?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I cannot give you one sentence answer, because security is always a very complicated topic, as Brian can confirm. But in general, we are relying on industry standard technology, right? So if you got ADFS, for instance, as one of your identity providers, we can integrate with that, right? If you have token-based authentication or OAuth, then we can leverage that. If you want to have personalized access with username, password to your backend systems, then we can enable this. So there are multiple options that you have, but given the fact that we have been working with enterprise organizations for the last 10 to 15 years, you can be actually pretty sure that we know what we are talking about in terms of enterprise security.
And I'll just say it because people always want to know, no data is stored on the phone. So that's commonly what people actually want to know too.
Yeah, and just to toss in the other key things, not just no data stored on the phone, but we don't store anybody's credentials for these backend systems on the phone or even in the cloud. And so, one of the key things people always want to know is where are the usernames and passwords or the credentials that are being used to access these premise-based systems? They're all on-premise, right? So it's a clever architecture for keeping things secure.
Cool. And then just one more question that I thought we will address, and that is around user experience. And one of the viewers says, we have trouble making the experience in our own apps comparable to the experience that consumers get with consumer apps. Do you have experienced this problem with your customers, and how do you tackle it?
I'll throw a couple things in there. It's been some really interesting Gartner research. Gartner is an analyst firm that tends to write with IT as one of their key constituents, and so Gartner has sort of taken this position around, well, IT organizations aren't going to be able to build compelling user experiences in mobile apps. So what IT should do is build a bunch of services, and then people will go and have to hire specialized developers to build the actual mobile clients. So I will say building compelling mobile experiences is actually a tricky thing, and if you don't have experience in it, it can be a real learning curve. What we do with Sitrion 1 is we build in a nice experience. So we have looked at the use cases and said, oh, a bunch of these informational update use cases, they all basically work the same. I mean, if you think about a stream that had bunch of cards that were really well formed, consistently laid out, attractive, cards that had the right bits of information, whether they were, health and safety updates, whether they were internal news updates, product release updates, or whatever you were trying to communicate out, you could make a nice consistent handling of those, and so we do. It's built into the client, right? Or if you think about approvals, and we say, okay, well, in an approval, you need to know who's requesting it, what's being requested, and what actions are you allowed to take as an approver, and if we can present that in a consistent way, that's better than having 5 or 6 different apps. And so Sitrion 1 builds in these user experiences with a nice design around them, and that helps give you both the consistency and the quality of the user experience without requiring you to have all of those designers on your team and all those people with that experience. One thing I will be really clear about, Sitrion 1 focuses on a set of use cases we think are super common. We're not trying to make a platform that lets you design anything, right? So you're not building games with Sitrion 1 where you have, spaceships flying around and aliens and things like that, right? If you need to make an app that looks like that with spaceships and aliens flying around, 1 is not the platform for you. But if you need to make productive, efficient, quality user experiences, then it's built into the design.
And it's true that what people see is, what is it called, shadow IT, where people within an organization, they aren't happy using enterprise apps because they don't present a good user experience, so in turn they find a consumer app equivalent to fulfill whatever it is that they need to do. And so the goal with Sitrion 1, as it is with any enterprise app that you want to appeal to users, it should be simple, it should be clean, it should be so easy to use. I'm of the mindset that you should never ever have a user guide for a mobile app. It should be deadly straightforward.
Absolutely, and one of my most favorite quotes of the last 12 months actually was that good software always has an opinion, and I think that's actually the core DNA of our UX philosophy, because what we did is we are providing a native experience across the iOS, Android, and Windows Phone and BlackBerry 10 platforms, right? But every platform is different. So we gave actually our native developers who were building the core product on those platforms, the core clients, we gave them the freedom to actually implement all the variations and the nice little features, the hub experiences on a Windows Phone, the swipe experiences on an iPhone, like all these platform agnostic things we built into the client apps, because we think that we need to provide a good standard so that our customers can actually use our investments into the user experience as a starting point, so they can really leverage our APIs, our plumbing, but also good existing user experience. They can just focus on implementing business use cases rather than doing all the heavy lifting by themselves.
Cool. Jenny, Brian, Marcus, thank you for joining Sitrion Talks today. I think this was a really great one. I hope everyone who's watching found it as insightful as I did. And you have any further questions for the panelists, you can feel free to reach out to me. You can do that through Engage if you're a customer, or at Luke Sinclair on Twitter. Also, keep your eye out every Monday. Jenny, who is otherwise known as our mobile goddess here at Sitrion, she publishes a Monday mobile wrap-up, and it's all the latest news from across the industry. It goes out on the Sitrion blog and the @Sitrion Twitter account every Monday, so keep your eye out for that. And if you're interested in this subject, it's a great point of information. That concludes today's Hangout call, and I want to thank you for listening in. And I will be sharing the link to this afterwards. It's going straight up on YouTube. If you enjoyed it, feel free to share it with any of your colleagues who might also think that it was interesting. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks,
Thank
Luke.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.